Darkcast Network. The light shines brightest on our indie podcasts.
Welcome to Ford in Vegas, a true crime podcast for the ages with two friends who hate each other. I'm Ford, and I am joined by the returning. This is a big moment. He hasn't been around since December. The one, the only, my worst enemy, Vegas. Vegas?
It's been 87 years.
Oh, yes. That's a Titanic reference.
It is, yes.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
It's been a while, Vegas. I'd ask how you've been, but I really don't care. So we'll get right into the show. If you're watching on YouTube, hit the subscribe button and don't forget to like the video. Show 'em, Vegas. And if you're on the go, you can subscribe to this show as a podcast wherever you get your podcasts. And if you're listening to us already on the podcast, don't forget to hit the subscribe button. And if you'd like to watch this show, simply go to fordandvegas.com and you'll find the link to do so. This show in podcast form is ad-free for just $3 a month, which goes to supporting the show and my drug habit. Simply go to patreon.com/Ford and Vegas. Also, Ford and Vegas is the handle on the social medias, so you could follow us there as well. And if you want to buy a Ford and Vegas shirt, you can do so at shopfordandvegas.com. And we always recommend the premium soft quality shirts. They are the highest quality. And lastly, we are a proud member of the Darkcast Network, the best indie true crime podcast network on God's green earth. So there you go.
Yep.
Big show in the works, in the plans for this week. Vegas, have you been following along at all with the Alex Murdaugh trial, which is bigger than I thought it was going to be? Because if you Google the word murder, every day the Alex Murdaugh trial is right there at the top of the list.
Yeah, I mean, I have been following a little bit. I haven't been scrolling every day. However, my prediction of him, not killing the nanny, even though he's not on trial for that at the second, looking slimmer and slimmer by the day, because a lot of things have come out that this guy is a real piece of shit.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So let's recap what we have, what happened, what went down today, February 16, as we record this. Jurors in the Alex Murdaugh double murder trial heard graphic detail today about how the examiner believes the victims were shot, and a recording that showed Murdaugh admitting to a murder-for-hire scheme to get insurance money for his family. Murdaugh is accused, obviously, as you know, or may not know, he's accused of killing his wife, Maggie, and their adult son, Paul, at the family's 1,700-acre property in rural Colleton County, South Kakalaki, in June of 2021. The prosecution says Murdaugh acted alone in killing his family, while the defense says police and prosecutors rushed to judgment, naming Alex as the suspect. Murdaugh is facing separate trials on allegations he stole millions from his law firm and his clients. While he's not directly facing those charges, the prosecution said his financial crimes was a motive in this case. It kind of ties together. You can, all right. So Thursday morning, which was today, began with the defense counsel, Jim Griffin, is objecting to Judge Newman's reverse of an earlier ruling that will now allow testimony to come in regarding the roadside shooting in September of 2021. Judge Newman says of his ruling yesterday was based on Griffin's introduction of the relationship and Alex Murdaugh and Eddie Smith during questioning of SLED agent Dave Owen. The judge said that he had ruled pre-trial that the roadside shooting was going to be off limits, but said with Griffin making the connection on Wednesday and not expecting to get burned by their actions, they did have repercussions. So the judge originally, Vegas, if you recall, he hired his cousin to shoot him in the head on the side of the road in a murder for hire plot.
Yes.
That went awry and didn't quite work out as Alex had hoped because he was trying to leave money for Buster. I believe his name is Buster. So the judge had originally decided we're not going to let that evidence get into this trial. We're going to keep them separate. But then the defense brought him up, and now here we are.
Don't do it.
So the judge is being asked to not allow 2 interviews conducted by the Savannah Hospital. He said Murdaugh was under medication, and the doctor would have to be called to testify on Murdaugh's competency at the time. Lead prosecutor Creighton Waters is stating that he and the defense team made a deal over the night that would allow Agent Kelly, the agent at the roadside scene, and the defendant's claim that he was attacked by an unknown stranger when he actually arranged it to be allowed in court. Waters said that he would also like to enter a phone interview with Alex. Judge Newman said he has not reviewed the evidence in question and that the 2 parties have agreed. Then take a few minutes to get things in order before the jury is called. Then there's a 10-minute break. Testimony continued with David Grubbs, a chief forensic examiner at the SC Attorney General's office, who is certified in Celebrite data and is an expert in cell phone forensics. Grubbs has analyzed all phones in this case and created a timeline using each phone's battery usage and habits. Some of the results of the analysis was presented on Wednesday afternoon. Vegas.
Yes.
It doesn't matter if you turn off all the tracking on your phone. If they want to go into your phone, they will still find all the data they need.
Yeah. You don't. If you're going to commit crimes or do anything, don't take your phone
At all.
No, don't leave it at your house. Leave it somewhere.
Don't have it even near your person.
No.
So this is what we have. On June 7th, the battery in Paul's phone died at 10:34 p.m. The last text to Paul's phone was by Rogan Gibson. Yo. Unread between 9 and 10. Maggie's phone shows a lot of data being recorded in the background. Orientation changes recorded show someone handling the phone going from vertical to landscape. I hate when that happens, when you're laying down in your phone, like...
Yes.
Yeah. When you get shot in the head and your phone changes orientation. Orientation changes recorded show someone handling the phone going from vertical to landscape. At one point, the camera interacts with the phone for about 1 second around 8:54. At 8:53 to 9:08, iOS snapshot is a record of what the phone is doing in the background while apps are running in the background. Maggie's phone is locked at this time and remains locked until the next day. In the same time frame, the Siri app pops up. Grubbs said it could be running in the background. It could be someone holding the button down to trigger the Siri app. Grubbs, I hate when I do that.
Yeah.
Siri getting like, oh, no. You know, and that thing's spinning at the bottom. Grubbs identifies at 9:07 p.m. as the time Maggie's phone is turned off. Turned on at 9:31. If the phone was tossed, it would not have recorded an orientation change.
I mean, that's kind of scary if you think about it. The fact that even if you're not using it, or even if you are using it, you can get data that says how your phone is turned, what's happening in the background at all times. Like, even if someone sends you a text and your phone is off, they still have record of that text going to.
Yeah.
That's kind of scary. That people talk about, oh, I don't, the computer and the cars are spying on it. Listen, everybody carries a cell phone. Nobody can live without it these days, unless you're like 90 and don't know how to use it. And even them, they have cell phones. We all are tracked 24/7, 365 days a year. That's a fact.
Listen, cell phones are becoming such a regular part of life. I just got a new car, and that is my key.
Yeah.
It's my cell phone.
Yeah.
When asked, well, what do I do if it dies? My cell phone. I was told, well, then you better have the hotel room looking key,
Well,
which you don't really carry.
You have another key, though. You should keep that in
I have
business.
it looks like a hotel room key.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I do have one. But I'm saying, when I asked, what does the key look like? Like, oh, the key is your phone. Like, that's the key.
Yeah.
The key is meant to be my smartphone, my iPhone.
Yeah.
That's how much cell phones are becoming life. They're literally I could turn the heat on, the air on. I can control all parts of the car right on the phone. That's how important cell phones are.
Yep.
And if you're going to commit crimes, like Vegas said earlier, we highly recommend you don't have your phone on you.
And also make sure you buy like a 72, car, 1972 Corvette, because the ones that don't have the GPS, because if you're driving a new Tesla or a Mach-E or one of these new electric cars that are going to be there eventually, they're going to know exactly what you're doing, when you're doing it and stuff, just like your cell phone.
You should drive a 72 Ford Maverick.
Yes, to all your murders.
Dr. Kenny Kinsey is the chief of detectives at Orangeburg County Sheriff's Department. He is a criminal justice professor at Claflin University and a former SLED agent. Kinsey answers directly to the sheriff and manages over 100 deputies and civilian employees. He testifies he has processed over 800 death scenes in his career. Imagine that.
That's a lot of death scenes.
My
800.
God. How do you separate work and life when that's your job?
Go to sleep and see people's faces because they're dead.
Can you imagine?
No.
Oof.
Nope. Can't.
Anywho, Kinsey did a crime scene reconstruction of the June 7 murders of Paul and Maggie using collected evidence, measurements from the scene, and personal investigation. He was told to look at all the evidence and use his own judgment to come up to his own conclusions regarding the events of June 7. Kinsey said Paul suffered 2 shotgun wounds, one buckshot to the chest near the midline, and the second fatal bird shot to the shoulder/head. Kinsey testifies the first non-fatal wound came as Paul was standing slightly at an angle. The shot came in Paul's left side. Pellets exited the left arm, re-entered the body before exiting and going into the window behind him. Kinsey identifies photographs of views of the floor of the feed room seen from the entrance, and Kinsey's rendering of the recreation of Paul's location in the feed room. Kinsey says blood has a vicious nature, and the 90-degree blood drops on the floor mean Paul was standing for a moment after the first shot. He was walking slowly after being hit. The feed room is 10 feet deep, and Paul was approximately 5 feet away from the doorway when he was hit. Kinsey made his determinations based on blood spatter, the shape of the entrance wound, and his knowledge of firearms. Kinsey is a gun instructor for all types of firearms. In a typical buckshot, he says, there are 9 pellets in the shot type that struck Paul. The location of the shooter cannot be defined exactly, he says, but the breech of the shotgun where you load and unload a shotgun was inside the door of the shed. The expended shells were found behind the door. Kinsey identifies photos showing Kinsey's enhanced image of the door to show the path of the fatal second shot. Other photos are Kinsey's photographs of the feed room door that he took when he was at the crime scene. Once he received the second shot, guess what? Paul stopped moving. Any movement was involuntary. Paul fell where he was found by force of gravity. The approximate shot path is from slightly below. Kinsey arrived at the path by observing blood spatter, shot defects in the door, and a void in the spatter, that which indicate where Paul was standing when he was hit with the fatal shot. Blood, brains, and other biological matter were found at the top of the door and some of the items on the top shelf inside the feed shed. How about that for an image?
I thought he killed the son in his bedroom.
No, the son got killed over by the dog kennel.
Oh boy.
Yes. So with a shotgun wound from birdshot, Kinsey said you have over 100 pellets doing damage that throws the body fluid and blood in a pattern. Kinsey points out the void on the door that shows Paul's body was blocking the area on the door. Kinsey determined Paul was slightly outside of the door frame when he was hit. The shooter was to the right of the doorway, outside of the feed room. Kinsey said the doorway would have shielded the shooter from some of the spatter. Waters asked Kinsey if there was any way the second shot could have been a contact wound. No way to replicate the blood spatter pattern if it was a contact pattern, and the shot would have to have come from above. It was not a suicide or self-inflicted wound. There is no way to hold the shotgun out and shoot it at the angle and get that blood spatter that is present in the feed room. The second wound was birdshot. The first shot was buckshot. So there you go. That's Paul. Isn't it crazy that this guy can go in, study the room, and the way that the blood spatters, he is able to tell where the shot came from, and more importantly, where it didn't come from. This was not a suicide, folks.
Well, it's also a lot harder with a shotgun to commit suicide than it is like with a handgun.
Yeah.
Because you have to hold it to a certain...
I'm not a gun guy, but they're pretty...
Yeah. I mean, you know what a shotgun looks like.
I do know what a shotgun looks like.
Yeah, you could assume you'd have to really hold it, and So they would know that, but the fact that he can walk into a room or feed barn, or feed whatever this is, pen, barn thing, and just say, it came from over here.
Not
Somebody
much of
was
a country boy, are you?
No.
No.
City boy here.
No.
He was over here, it shot over here, this and that, I mean, that's what forensic scientists do.
Now he breaks down Maggie's. Kinsey said Maggie had 3 non-fatal injuries: left wrist, left thigh, and through her midsection. The thigh and midsection wounds were close together because of stippling, shot quickly together, a shot within 4 to 5 feet. The first fatal wound on the left side of the abdomen, out of the breast and into the left chin and into the brain, had burning. She dropped at that point. The second fatal injury was down into her head, and the entrance and exit wound were close enough to cause a large hole in the skull. Let that one marinate. After the third shot, she would have been bent over from the angle, she would have been on her knees with a hand on the ground. The 300 blackout shell casings show a right side ejection port, but the path of the ejection does not necessarily show movement of a shooter, according to Kinsey. Kinsey said the first fatal wound came from behind, about 5 or 6 feet away. It burned her stomach before entering her body, and she would have dropped. The second fatal shot was from the front and into the crown of the head. Kinsey identifies a comparison report on the bruisings on Maggie's leg. A photo of Maggie's leg is shown to the jury with a general impression of a footprint on Maggie's calf and the gunshot wound she sustained. Kinsey determined Maggie stood for a moment after being shot because of the blood pattern on her leg. The mark on the back of her leg is an unknown impression. Kinsey identifies the unknown impression in a cropped photograph. A Polaris side-by-side ATV is in close proximity to Maggie's body under a shed connected to the hangar. Kinsey looked for biological material on the tires of the ATV. Kinsey said there is biological material on one of the ATV's tires. Kinsey explains he was looking at footwear and tire track treads, not threads, dimensions of a tread pattern, shape, size, class characteristics that might make an impression. To make an identification to the exclusion of all others, there needs to be something unique or accidental to the thread. Three-dimensional impressions are best for making comparisons and possible identifications. Kinsey identifies photographs of the unknown impression on Maggie's calf and the known impression of the ATV tire by comparison side by side. The tread on the tire and the impression on Maggie's calf are in the same area. Kinsey said from the shot patterns, if Maggie was angled on the ground, she would have been facing the feed room. Waters asks, are the shots consistent with the shooter coming from the feed room? Yes, it could be. Waters then asks, with this tire impression, is there a reasonable explanation of how the impression got onto Maggie? Answer, at some time Maggie made some impact with the driver's side tire with her leg. Kinsey identifies a photo of a cell phone sitting on top of Paul. Kinsey is asked if that is how Paul was found at the scene. He answers yes. Could Paul's phone have popped out and landed there on his back? Kinsey said the phone was placed there by someone else. If Paul had the phone in his hands, it would have been beneath the body or to the side.
So again, note to any potential murderers out there, always take the cell phone of the victims and destroy it.
Kinsey is asked if there is forensic value in taking swabs from bathrooms in a home. He responded, if there is an unknown person, yes, but there is no forensic value to take swabs from bathrooms in a family home because it is common to have blood in the drains. Waters, have you owned guns? Kinsey responds, of course. He's got 7 rifles, including an automatic .223. The .300 Blackout is louder than a shotgun, and during COVID, the ammunition became expensive and hard to find. Kinsey says all of his conclusions are peer-reviewed before he publishes his reports. Did you see any evidence of a struggle between Paul and the shooter? Kinsey says no defensive wounds were found on Paul or Maggie. The wounds to Paul for his bloody footprints have been there. He would have been standing. How far back? He is asked. Kinsey answers approximately 6 foot inside the feed room. You teach how to take crime scene photographs? Yes, he said. There are 3 types of crime scene photos. One includes a scale. You take multiple photographs at 90 degrees overhead and more than one shot at a different perspective. The shoes that made the footprints were definitely Paul's shoes when the crime scene photo was taken. Where would Paul have been? Yeah. Kinsey said it would be hard for him to orient as to where he was exactly. The trail of blood goes to the door. He says yes. The trail is about 5 foot long. Paul's feet were inside the door and his head and shoulders slightly outside the door. Then he's asked if the fatal shot hits his shoulder. He answers yes. Dr. Reamer said shoulder, chin, head. The DMV showed Paul's height at 6'6", and Dr. Reamer had his height at 6'9". Why the difference? Kinsey said Paul had significant damage to the top of his head, and Kinsey assumed his height to be 6'5". The shoulder wound was at 4'7". Harpulitin asked Kinsey to mark the height and angle of the shoulder wound from the ground on a drawing board propped up on an easel using a tape measure, looking at the defects of the door. Kinsey got a 135-degree angle of the fatal shot. So they are really breaking this thing down from every angle, every inch, every foot, and every step.
Well, you have to.
Yeah.
You have to, because you have to present the jury with all of the evidence. Because if you're going to convict something and put them away for life or give them the death penalty, whatever the case, you kind of have to know everything.
So, Vegas, as this thing is moving along here, are you still the leader of the Alex Murdaugh fan club?
Well, no, I still
believe we have a bet on the other deal, right?
I still believe that he might have not killed the nanny. I still that, but I never questioned his murder of these two people.
Okay.
If he did it or not. But I mean, he is still innocent until proven guilty.
Oh, don't you hate that?
Yeah. Yeah, he's still innocent until proven guilty.
So we get to the redirect, and Waters asks Kinsey if he was contacted by SLED to look at this case. Kinsey says yes. He made his own conclusions in the case. And he is asked, can homicide scenes be fluid? Shooters can move. Victims can move. Kinsey, of course, says yes. Does all that stuff you and Harpootlian did the easel change your opinion of what happened to Paul? He says no. They re-cross-examine him. We agreed what we did was a mirror image of what we did. He says yes. We agreed the trajectory of the shotgun was low. He says yes. And then they went to a lunch break.
I mean, I have a lot of how they died, but I'm waiting for how do they connect how they died to the murder, or Murdaugh in this case, because he is the defendant. I haven't heard that, he killed them yet. I heard this is how they died.
Yeah. Oh, you're talking about today?
Yeah. It's just basically going over the crime scene of what happened.
Yeah, and it is a very graphic recall. I mean, that's...
Yeah, I mean, talking about brains and holes in skulls, and yeah, I mean, you got to. I mean, I would hate. I mean, I hate to be on a jury in anything, but a murder trial probably would not be, one I'd want to be on, because you have to see all the pictures and any videos and all that stuff. No.
The cross-examination of Kelly will begin Friday morning. Kelly is the guy that where did this guy go? Where did he go? Ryan Kelly is a SLED senior special agent. So he was also questioned and gone over some stuff today about body cam images. A body cam image from the responding officer at the scene shows Alex sitting in an ambulance telling his story to EMS. He said a car passed him and came around and parked behind him, and a good-looking man got out and shot him. This is in referring to the side of the road murder for hire deal that Alex participated in.
But because they're going to go back to that because they opened the door.
Yeah.
For that.
Yeah.
That's weird. That's kind of weird that they jump around, that they would go for the murder of the wife and the kid to now his attempted murder.
So this is September 4 of 2021. It was a roadside incident where Alex was shot in the head.
And he didn't die.
He did not die.
Somebody effed up.
His cousin.
Yeah, effed up. Shoot him.
Kelly said there was a black Mercedes SUV belonging to Maggie at the scene of an old Sakahatchee Road. The vehicle had a driver's side flat tire, a run flat tire. After reviewing the tire, Kelly said there looked like a small hole in the tire created by a pocket knife-like instrument. Kelly obtained a copy of the 911 call made by Alex Murdaugh. Kelly describes the call. Alex says that he is near a church, got a flat, pulled off to the side of the road. Another vehicle pulls up. The driver got out, shot him in the head. It is played for the jury in it. Alex is heard giving his location is near a church with a red roof. The 991 operator asks what's going on. He said he had a flat tire, pulled over to fix it. Someone came up behind him and tried to shoot him. The 911 operator asks where he was shot, and he said somewhere in the head he was bleeding. I mean, this is a glancing blow.
Obviously, we can call 911.
This is of no impact whatsoever. Not like the impact that he put inside Maggie's head. Definitely not the same level of impact. It is played for the jury. Yeah, a body cam image shows a responding officer. Alex tries to give a description of the vehicle. Thinks it was a blue GMC or a Chevrolet. Gun was fired once. He says he lost his vision when it happened. EMS said that they will fly Alex to Savannah. Kelly said he met with Alex and Randy Murdaugh at the hospital. Kelly said Alex was receiving treatment and he was awake and answering questions. Alex stated a driver passed by, turned around, came back, shot him in the fucking head. Alex said he made contact with the driver, turned around to go back to his car, and when he turned around, boom. Alex said he thought the weapon was a .22 caliber. Alex described the suspect vehicle as a blue pickup truck with special wheels. Driver was a nice guy, nice looking guy, 30 to 40 years old. Could have been me. Alex gave no name, but said it was someone he didn't know, but would recognize him if he saw him. Kelly recognizes an image from the inside of the Mercedes showing Alex's assistant solicitor's badge. Kelly is asked on September 5, did agents continue to search the scene? Yes, looking for significant debris that may have caused Alex's flat tire. Kelly said across the street from where the Mercedes was found, they recovered a gray utility knife. Kelly said that they did not find any debris that would have caused a flat. Vegas, the utility knife is what caused the flat. They sliced the tire, they threw the knife across the street, and here we go.
I mean, if you're going to try to do a murder for hire type thing, I mean, you screwed this up 10 times.
Yes.
I mean, let's get a flat tire, but we're going to use a utility knife, not a nail. Like, use a freaking nail. Put the nail up and put, boom. And then you could say, I got a flat from a nail. But no, you use a utility knife like an idiot, which any, crime lab in the country, I would assume, is going to know that that's not a nail or a glass or something that can cause a flat. Then you throw it across the street. So then they have, plausible explanation of why that happened.
Yeah.
And then the person that was, quote, hired to kill you doesn't kill you.
Yeah. I mean, that's the biggest thing.
Yes. Because if he would have died, then obviously none of this would have, one, his wife and kid would have still been alive.
Maggie and Paul would still be here.
Yeah, because he was dead. So, I mean, he probably, his cousin honestly should be on trial for all the murders, because if he didn't screw up, we wouldn't have
you know
this.
what? No.
That was afterwards?
This happens in September.
Oh, it happens after the
Yes.
day. Oh, okay.
Yes.
I'm getting the timeline mixed up there.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, no.
Oh.
Maggie and Paul are dead in June. He tries this stunt in September of 2021.
Oh, yeah. So
that's right, because he tries to do it because he wants Buster to get the money. Buster's the only one left alive.
Because he didn't kill Buster for some reason.
If Alex Murdaugh dies, Buster's the only one alive still. Buster Bluth.
Yeah.
Alex said that he called. Alex had called Curtis Eddie Smith. He bought pills from Smith, paying about $40,000 to $50,000 a week for pills.
Holy shit!
That was Alex Murdaugh's opioid addiction. $50,000 a week.
You could buy a hell of a lot of cocaine and heroin for $50,000 a week.
Alex said he called Smith after he met with Jim Griffin and Chris Wilson on September 4. Smith agreed to meet with him on the side of the road and followed Alex into town to Sunoco gas station. Alex was in the Mercedes, Smith in a pickup truck. Alex said he told Smith things were getting bad and it'd be better off if he wasn't around, and asked Smith to shoot him. Alex said Smith was surprised, but eventually he said yes. Alex said he told Smith to shoot him in the head. Alex said he made the plan. He'd make a flat tire. Smith was to pass him by and come around and shoot him. Alex even gave him the gun. A revolver pistol, a .38, not a .22, like he told the cops. Smith said that, Alex said that Smith followed him out to Salcahatchee Road, and Smith stopped and made the flat tire with a knife and then threw the knife across the street. Smith had already passed him by, turned around, came back, stopped, got out of the truck. Alex said he didn't look at Smith, and Smith shot him in the back of the head. Alex said he was disoriented, and it took him a couple of minutes to come back to his senses. He remembers 2 cars came by. One stopped and tried to help him. He said the people who stopped to help were crowded in their cars, so the young lady got into the Mercedes and was going to drive him to the hospital, but then they put him in the front of their car and drove to meet the ambulance. Alex said his intent was for Smith to shoot him, and Buster would be better off with the life insurance money. Harpootlian asked Smith to repeat the name again, and Alex says Curtis Edward Smith. Harpootlian asks, how long is it from Alex asking Smith to kill him to when he was shot? Alex said it was as long as it took to drive to Salcahatchee Road. Harpootlian asked Kelly if this call is being recorded. Kelly says yes. Alex apologizes for lying to Kelly in the hospital, and Kelly asked how long had Alex known Smith. Alex said he's known Smith for a long time, about 10 to 12 years. The two would talk frequently on the phone about getting pills. Alex would pay him to get pills. The amount varied several times a week with cash and checks. So this is a telephone conversation that Alex and Kelly, Alex Murdaugh and Kelly, are having.
First of all, God, why are people... You're talking on the phone admitting to this stuff?
Well, yeah, I think this was after, this is when the gig was up. The jig was up.
Yeah, but still, stick to your story, bro.
just deny till you die here at this point?
Well, yeah, because if you admit it, well, now you admitted it. You can't go back and be, well, I guess you can. People have said I did it and then found out they didn't do it. They just lied that they did it for some reason. But yeah, I don't know what Alex is trying to do.
So they're going to cross-examine Mr. Kelly on Friday morning. Yeah, this guy's dragged into this trial. He's got nothing to do with this trial.
No.
But it's the defense's fault.
Yeah, because the defense is stupid because they brought it up. Now it's a pattern. Now it's a why did you want to kill yourself type deal. What are you doing? I don't know. People are stupid.
Well, we're going to end this portion of the podcast. We're going to end this podcast with a cold case. We love to end our shows with cold cases because we feel like after we just talked for 37 minutes about brains and guts and blood and murder, we should leave you with a solved murder case. This one here is a 4 decades. That's 40 years. After a 13-year-old boy was stabbed to death in Terra Alta, West Virginia, a man has finally been arrested for his murder. David Monroe Adams, 56 years old, was booked into jail this past Monday and charged with second-degree murder. At the beginning of this month, the sheriff's office took a second look at the murder of 13-year-old Jeremiah Jerry Matthews Watkins.
What?
On November 12, 1985. Watkins was found in a shallow hole near railroad tracks with a fatal stab wound to the back. Preston County Sheriff's Office Captain T.N. Ticknell noted that in his review of this case, that Adams, who was 18 years old at the time, made a number of inconsistent statements about the boy's murder. As part of the renewing investigation, law enforcement conducted multiple interviews with Mr. Adams, and he eventually confessed that an argument that started over a stolen bicycle resulted in Jerry being taken into a shed and murdered over a bike. Adams was living in Westover, a town about 30 miles northwest of Terra Alta, where the murder took place. He's being held on $1 million bond and could face additional charges as the investigation continues. Jail records did not list an attorney who could speak on his behalf. A 40-year-old cold case solved.
So when was the murder? In 85?
85, November 12, 1985.
And the guy, there was a 13-year-old. I'm going to do some math here.
Do some math there.
Okay, so
The kid that died
1985.
was 13 at the time,
Okay.
and the guy that did the killing was 18.
Okay, so 1985, 13 victim. Okay.
Yep.
And then 18-year-old killer.
Yep.
Okay.
Carry the one.
And how old is the killer now?
56.
He's 56. Okay. And he was 13, and the killer was
Carry the one.
56.
Divide the two.
Because I'm trying to see, because if it's a 40-year case, which it's
Nearly.
not, it's 38.
Nearly
38 years.
4 decades.
Yeah, 38 years. So that would have meant
We were 2 when this kid was murdered.
We were. And so that would make the victim, if he was still alive, 50 years old. Yeah, so that tracks. 56, 18. Yep, because I was originally, when you said this and the guy was 56, I'm thinking in my mind the dude was a young kid.
Yeah, he was.
Because I was thinking 40 years exactly. So I was thinking, he was going to be like 16 or something. So now my question to that, which is null and void, but I'm going to ask it anyway.
Ask it anyway. No, there's no such thing as a stupid question here.
That's definitely not a stupid question. But if he was 16 and he murdered him, technically he would be a minor.
Yes.
Well, obviously he is now 56. Do they charge him as an adult? Or can he go and say, well, I was technically a minor back then? Or is it because you kind of, waited 38 years and finally admitted it? Like,
yeah,
you kind of lost that minor deal?
Yeah, I would think, and maybe at some point we will have a real life example, and I'm sure it'll be by a case-by-case basis, but I would assume that they would charge him as an adult. Would be my guess.
Probably, but you never know.
You don't know. You don't know. And some states might.
Yes.
California probably wouldn't.
No, California, no.
They would charge him as a minor.
Yeah, but obviously since he's 18, it's null and void. It was 18, it's null and void anyway.
But it's still a good question.
Yeah,
because it is. I'm curious now that you brought that question up, what that answer would be.
Because let's say they were both 13 years old, right? And the guy took his bike or whatever, and he was mad, and he had a little pocket knife or whatever, and he stabbed them a couple times, and he murdered him. But now he's 40, 50 years old. Well, do you say, well, when he committed the murder, he was young, he was a minor, but then now he's obviously an adult? Is it like, well, you never said anything to anybody? If you would have admitted it back then maybe they would have went softer on you and you would have, whatever. But because you waited.
So here's my question to you, and then we'll wrap this thing up. What would you rather do? Would you rather get caught at 18 or get caught at 56?
I would probably rather get caught at 18.
Right? Because you get it in, you get out.
Yeah, serve the 10 years.
Or whatever it's going to be.
Yeah, I mean, because you're not going to, they weren't going to probably, I mean, I don't know. I don't know the details in the case, obviously. But I don't think you probably would get maybe 15 max. I don't think you would get much more than that because you were still, I mean, you were legal age. But so let's just say 15 years. You do your, you're still out well before this. But now you're going to 56, and now it's so long that, you could get 15, 25, but now it's going to be 70 something before you're out.
So you're probably better off, if you're going to get caught, you're probably better off getting caught at 18 than you are getting caught at 56.
I would think so, because get it done.
And the flip side to your answer is,
you live 38 years free and clear.
No, you're at 18, you're now a felon.
Well,
and your life is now, for the most part, your life is shit.
I mean, that's true.
You could obviously rehabilitate, but your life you're fucked. I mean,
that's true.
But now you get fucked at 56, and maybe you've had a life and you have money and you had a good job and you're able to save or whatever the case may be, and now you're going to jail for 25 or whatever.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because you fuck yourself at 18 and now you have a murder conviction on your record.
Yeah. Yeah. You're not. You can't
It's hard to get a job.
especially when you've been convicted of murder.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you have to, like, you know, openly admit that.
Yeah, because they will find it in your background.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's
you know
true.
what I'm saying? So
That-
what do you know?
That's true.
I think I'd rather be caught at 56.
I mean,
Just based off of that alone.
but it could, but the only way I would rebuttal this is, just to play the devil's advocate, is if he was caught in 85 or 86 or whenever he would have been caught,
Yeah.
time frame wise, and he showed remorse and he's like, you know what, I did it. It was a bike. I was young. I got mad. I stabbed him. I didn't mean to. I'm sorry. Blah, 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 blah. Then maybe they don't charge you with a felony. Maybe they charge you with, not murder. Maybe it's something else. I don't know all the terms.
I think any of those are probably going to be a felony.
But maybe they
Even
drop,
if it's involuntary manslaughter, I think it's still going to be manslaughter is going to be on the record.
Yeah, but maybe there's a way. I don't know.
They're going to run the background check and they'll be like, okay, let's see here. David Monroe Adams. 15 years ago, you committed manslaughter. Nice.
Yeah. Well, involuntary manslaughter is different than.
Yeah.
But
how long do the background checks go back? Will that pop up? Is it only 7 years they go back?
No, I don't think so.
If it's only 7 years, then you can get away with it.
I would think it's 10 or so years, maybe 15. I don't know. It depends. I guess it depends how long they ask.
I know.
Or is a felony conviction on there no matter what?
Is a murder charge always going to be on your record?
I'm going to Google that right now.
Google it.
I'm going to Google it right now.
Google while I give the read. If you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Also, you can throw us a thumbs up. We appreciate it. If you're listening to the show as a podcast, don't forget to hit the subscribe button. And if you want to watch this show, you can watch us, see our beautiful faces. You could do so just by going to FordandVegas.com and you'll see the YouTube link. The show in podcast form, if you want it, ad-free, $3 a month, goes to supporting the show. Patreon.com/FordandVegas. You can follow the show on Twitter at Ford and Vegas. If you want to buy a Ford and Vegas shirt, it's another way to help us support the show. You can do so at shopfordandvegas.com. Always recommend premium soft. And lastly, we are a proud member of the Darkcast Network, the best indie true crime podcast network on God's green earth.
So it says, in general, a felony stays on your record forever.
Yes.
Unless you do something about it. That doesn't mean it will always show up on someone checks your background.
Yes.
And also, great state of California has some laws to help people with felony convictions who have served their time and stayed out of trouble.
Well, these guys are West Virginia.
Well, I know.
Yeah.
But in California, if you get a felony, there are some laws and you stay out of trouble for a certain amount of time, they can seal that felony record. Expunge it or seal it or whatever. Yeah.
Seal it and expunge it and get rid of it.
See ya. It's like it never even happened.
All right.
I mean, personally, if you're convicted of a felony, it should be there forever. There should be no laws to get rid of it.
We will continue to follow the Alex Murdaugh trial. And Vegas will be back next time. You have any parting words for the audience?
Yeah, I come back and I get fired from everything. Yeah. I don't do the board anymore. No more quick hits. I got nothing. I'm just a lonely man over here in the corner.
Yep.
Yeah, that's what happens, I guess, when, the person that hates you the most is in charge of your life. Mm-hmm.
Well, for Vegas, I'm Ford. We'll see you guys next time right here on Ford in Vegas, a true crime podcast for the ages with two friends who hate each other. Goodbye, Vegas.
Goodbye.